I want to start this video off with a full game spoiler warning. If you have not completed Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, I suggest that you come back to this video after you have done so. In this video, I'll be covering the current strategy for the free, glitchless category of Uniquely Disadvantaged. If you want more background on this guide series, I'll have a link in the description to the first video in the series where I talk more about the structure of this series. I'll also have other useful links for mechanics and other general information in the description, as well as a link to a Pastebin with the written version of the build and strategy that I'll be covering in this video. One final note. The strategy for this TA is, in my opinion, the hardest strategy for any TA in Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition by a decent amount. Because of this, I highly recommend learning at least 2 or 3 other TA strategies before learning this one to get more familiar with some of the techniques used in TAs. With that out of the way, let's get into the build. The part that we're going to be using for this TA is going to be Reyn, Fiora, Dunban, in that order. For the gear for Reyn, we're going to be wanting to run the Empire Pike with critical up, physical defense down, and attack plus. And for armor gems, we're going to want to have 2 strength up gems, haste from the glory gauntlets, aggro up from the Argos leggings, and quick step. Also worth noting is that you probably want to have a pretty decent armor on Reyn, as you can take quite a bit of damage, especially in phase 1, and this will just help make sure that you can survive and not get any visions from the enemies. A few things worth noting is that I personally use the Empire Pike when I run this TA due to its 10% higher crit rate. However, the Atomic Driver is a perfectly acceptable weapon to use as well due to its higher auto attack minimum, making your damage more consistent. However, because Reyn's going to be boosted by, he's going to have a high strength stat boosted by Berserker and Peerless, the extra damage from this doesn't matter as much as the extra critical rate in my opinion, so I run the Empire Pike instead. Additionally, the Attack Plus gem can be swapped out for a Weapon Power gem. I just personally do not do this, as the Attack Plus makes Wave 1 considerably more consistent, and thus you can get more of your runs to Wave 2, which is where you want to get the physical defense down off in the first place. Next for Fiora, we're going to be running the Conviction Blades with double attack, physical defense down, and talent boost. For her armor gems, we're going to be running 2 strength up gems, haste from the speed 5 frame, and quick step. Also, you're going to want to make sure you have the Sedna drones equipped for sword drones 10. For Fiora, we're running talent boost and double attack because she needs to have her talent up by wave 3, and in order to do that, she needs, I believe, 7 auto attacks with talent boost, and she can't get that without double attack, so running weapon power is just simply not an option for her. You pretty much have to run these weapon gems, and there's not really a whole lot of wiggle room there. And finally for Dunban, we're going to run the Wyvern Cutlass with weapon power, physical defense down, and critical up. And then for his armor gems, we're going to run 2 strength up gems, haste from the glory gauntlets, debuff resist, and quick step. The debuff resist here isn't super important, but there's nothing else to really run there in its place. Dunban can take a lot of damage in wave 1, and debuff resist prevents him from getting poisoned, so this can just help him survive a little bit easier. Ultimately though, it's not that important. Also worth knowing is that you can run the Darkness Sickle if you want to for 3% higher crit rate, but it's such a marginal increase in crit rate that I personally just stick with the Wyvern Cutlass. For arts on Reyn, you're going to want to be running Dive Savate, Bone Upper, Shield Bash, Sword Drive, Lariat, Berserker, War Swing, and Magnum Charge. All these arts should be level 12, and as far as the position on the art palette, for the most part it doesn't matter, but you're going to want to have Sword Drive next to the talent art, and I personally recommend having Lariat next to the talent art as well. We'll get more into this when we talk about the actual strategy for the time attack, but I wanted to make special mention of that now. For Fiora, you're going to want to be running Spear Blade, Double Wind, and Air Fang, with Spear Blade being next to her talent art. And for Dunban, you're going to be wanting to run Peerless, Gale Slash, Worldly Slash, Electric Gutbuster, and Steel Strike, with Gale Slash being next to his talent art. For skills, as usual, you really want to focus on attack and quick step, with the only major thing of note is that I'm actually running quite a bit of defensive skills this time as well. You can pick and choose which defensive skills you want. I'm personally just running a decent amount of them for safety because I have a 999 affinity coin file. but you can pick and choose whichever of the defensive skills you want. I will have, in the Pastebin in the description, I will have a bit of, I'll have specified which skills are mandatory and which ones are optional. So if you just want to look down there for the specifics of which ones I would say are optional, you can do that. Also, a few other things worth mentioning. I'm running Nutritious over Adventure Time because the strength matters a lot for this. Reyn really needs that extra 50 strength, and the extra quick step doesn't actually matter that much. And I am not running Invincible Hero, and this is because Reyn will never be at full health during Wave 1 or Wave 2 while he's attacking, so the strength boost from this would only be in place for Wave 3, which is where it would not matter. So we'll just kind of go through the rest of the skills. And once again for Fiora and Dunban, I'm going to be just mainly prioritizing damage and chain links because there will be a chain attack used in Wave 3. And I personally just drawn a couple of defensive skills just to be safe. And with all the skills out of the way, let's go ahead and hop into the video review section of this video. In this section of the video, we're going to be talking through my current PB as of the time of recording this video. So the general strategy for Wave 1 is pretty specific as far as the movement that you take with Reyn. I know that Hinomaru has a different setup than what I use, but I like the setup that I use, and I find it's very consistent once you get used to it, and I find that it gives a slightly better line than what Hinomaru does, so this is what I do. So at the start of Wave 1, you're going to want to start walking forward, target and draw your weapon on Solar Bugworm. As Reyn's drawing his weapon, you're going to want to switch your targeting over to Conflagrant Rakeseal over here on the left, focus your allies onto it, then switch your targeting back to Solar Bugworm with Reyn so that the camera will realign straight forward. You're also going to want to make sure that you do get the Battlestar Affinity because the increased tension and haste from it do matter. So after this, actually I'll go ahead and let this play out. So you can see I quickly switch targeting, focus them on to Conflagrant Rakeseal, then quickly switch back to Solar Bugworm, and now my camera is facing forward again. So next thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to walk forward until you're just over this little bump here on the ground. Whenever you get over the bump, you're going to want to switch your movement from being straight forward to being forward and left, so you end up right about here. This will cause Shimmering Forte to walk over to you, and as you're positioned to right about here, you're going to want to use Berserker and then Lariat in that order. We'll go ahead and watch this real quick. So you can see I changed directions. I use Berserker and Lariat, and Conflagrant Rakeseal is walking over to me. So if you don't go far enough forward here, Conflagrant Rakeseal will be too far away and you won't hit him with Lariat, which will make it so that you just don't have enough damage to kill him. And if you change directions at a bad time or change to a bad direction, Conflagrant Rakeseal will just stand still and will not walk over to you. So it is pretty specific, but once you get a feel for it, it's not too bad. So here, Fiora and Dunban are attacking Conflagrant Rakeseal, and I'm going to go back to a better frame. And Dunban is using Peerless. So as soon as Fiora's auto attacks have gone off and Dunban has used Peerless, you're going to want to focus your allies onto Solar Bugworm, and then with Reyn you're going to want to walk forward and a little bit to the left, and then use War Swing and Magnum Charge. War Swing should hit all three enemies if you're positioned well. Like so. And then as Dunban's going to use Gale Slash on Solar Bugworm, and Fiora is going to use Air Fang and then Double Wind. After Fiora has started using Double Wind, you're going to want to target onto Shimmering Forte and focus your allies onto him. So you can see Fiora used Double Wind there. We'll go back. And I switch the target over to Shimmering Forte. I personally like to shift Reyn's targeting around back to Conflagrant Egg Seal at this point, just in case one of the other enemies survives, but in this case, they all died. Now with Reyn, you're going to want to start walking over towards where Wave 3 spawns, and whenever you hear Dunban start using Worldly Slash and Fiora has already auto-attacked, you're going to want to run from combat. And all that just to get through Wave 1. So for Wave 2, you're going to want to first target onto Immovable Gonzalez and hit him with a Sword Drive, very simple. And then if you are positioned far enough back and to the right, Territorial Rope will get pushed a little bit to the right, which is closer to Wave 3, which is very good, and it's pretty important if you want to get a very good time. So you can see he's kind of being pushed over this way. So you're going to essentially want to walk in range to auto-attack him. Then you're going to auto-attack, then use Shield Bash, Bone Upper, and Dive Sabat in that order. This is the fastest order that you can use any of the arts. The other order that you could do would be Bone Upper, Dive Sabat, Shield Bash, but that is about 4 frames slower, so this is the optimal order. So go ahead and use all 3. Dunban Fiora will go ahead and attack themselves, and if you're lucky and get a lot of crits and all 3 physical defense downs, you will be able to kill Territorial Rope Bar with that. So now for Wave 3, this is why I suggested putting Lariat next to your talent art, because we're going to use Lariat to start Wave 3, and then we're going to activate a chain attack. So you're going to want to run up to Avalanche Abbacy and Blizzard Bel'Ghazas, and then when you're in about the position I'm in right now, you're going to want to use Lariat, then quickly scroll left and up, and then activate a chain attack. So you can see the chain attack is starting, and the order of arts you're going to want to use in the chain attack is Dive Sabat, Spear Blade, Gale Slash, Sword Drive, and then Sword Drones 10. However, there is some extra tech for time attacks for chain attacks, where you can pause to get a little bit faster time. Each of the pauses here can save that are going to be in this can save a maximum of about 0.3 seconds. And we'll kind of go through them a little more as they happen, but I do not currently have a video over the pausing tech in this game. If I do make one in the future, it will be linked in the description eventually, but just wanted to make mention of that now before things start. So using Dive Sabat here, and if we go forward a few frames, you can see that as it switches over to Fiora, I pause the game. And this is the first of the 2 pause tricks that are used in this time attack. So we'll go ahead and just go back and watch this in normal speed. And you can see I pause when it switches to Fiora. This is about frame perfect, as far as I know, it's about frame perfect to get it so you don't lose any time whatsoever. If you're a little bit early, you can pause buffer frame by frame until it switches to the character. But if you're a little bit late, you just kind of have to deal with it and then just do the chain attack for the next turn normally. What this does, though, is if we advance frame by frame, you can see that whenever it goes back to the game, Fiora's arts palette comes up a lot quicker and we actually gain control of the arts palette before the arts actually become available to be clicked. This allows it so that I can already be menued over to Spear Blade whenever her arts become available to click. And as you can see here, I actually got Spear Blade on the first available frame, and this is where this saves time. You're not actually saving time on the actual transition here. You're saving time on being able to select the art quicker. And I do the same thing going to Dunban. This is actually a good example because you can see I paused 1 frame early here. And I have to pause buffer a single frame so that it switches over to Dunban. This pause, every additional pause you have to do does cost 1 frame, so you do want to be as perfect as possible with them. And then once again, as I mentioned with Dunban, we're going to be using Gale Slash. And coming up here is the next pause tech, which is, so whenever Dunban hits with Gale Slash, the start of the QuickTime event to extend the chain attack comes up. And if you pause during this, you can skip this little animation that's starting here. You'll essentially skip this animation. It'll play in the background while the pause menu's up. As you can see, it's happening there. And that does save a couple of frames. And then it doesn't save any time during this. You just time it normally. And then you once again pause for Reyn whenever it switches over to him. And this is just like before, so that we can menu over to sword drive before the actual arts become available to be clicked. And this will kill Avalanche Abacy. And then here with Reyn's sword drive, we're once again going to pause whenever the at the start before the quick time event. But the difference here is that because we are actually starting on Fiora's talent already, we don't, and because the change of enemies, you don't actually need to pause buff for this last one, so you can just mash on Sword Jones 10 and get it on the first available frame. My pauses here actually for the pauses that I had for before the quick time event weren't very good here, and I didn't really save a whole lot of time. But they can save a decent amount of time, about 0.3 seconds per pause, so they are definitely worth it to go for. With all that out of the way though, I'm just going to go ahead and let's play out as I do my outro. So I do hope that you enjoyed this video. It's a bit of a long one and a bit complicated to explain, so I do hope everything came out clearly. And I do hope that if you were looking to run this TA, you found this guide useful. With all that out of the way though, I think that's about it. So I will see you in the next video. And as always, especially with this one, if you have any questions, please ask in the comments and I will do my best to clarify. See you in the next one.